Conservation Ag Update is brought to you by Yetter Farm Equipment. Hey, welcome to the program. Great to see you as always. Just a few months ago, Chicago issued its first ever dust storm warning after thunderstorms swept up loose soil from farm country and hurled it into the atmosphere. Now, dust storms typically don't get tons of national media coverage, but a new data set actually shows that there were 232 deaths from wind-blown dust events from 2007 to 2017. And the number jumps up to 240 if you include the deadly I-55 pileup in Illinois a couple of years ago. So how do we cut down on these dust storms? Well, no-till innovator Randall Reeder has the answer.
Illinois had 3 straight springs with dust storms, some more tragic than others. I think I can guarantee you, if all the land, and I'm not picking on Illinois, if all the farmland was no-till with cover crops, there would be 0 dust storms because that soil is always going to have a cover on it. And we would not have any dust storms. We'd have minimal erosion from rain. It would take a big rainstorm to cause any erosion. We've got research in Ohio. It's not there anymore, but the Agriculture Research Service of USDA at Coshocton, Ohio, 40 years on a steep slope and corn. And they were measuring the sediment in pounds per acre, not tons, a few pounds. And it just shows the value and how we can just flat out eliminate erosion with no-till and cover crops.
Great insight as always from Randall there. Next up, we're headed to Wood Lake, Minnesota, where no-tiller David Stelter tries to keep all his acres covered year-round. To help make it happen, he built a piece of equipment to interseed corn at V6. Let's check it out.
I got the idea from a gentleman named Brady Wolf from by Benson, Minnesota. They did theirs on 40-inch rows. We did this on 30s. And to try to get some soil movement when we planted, instead of just dropping the seed on top of the soil, we get enough soil movement with these rotary tines from the rotary hoe to mix the ground, the soil and the seed up a little bit. And then, of course, the rain does wonders. And what happens is this thing will meter out the seed and it'll blow it into these deflectors, and the deflectors will deflect the seed in the 30-inch row, and then the rotors churn the soil, and then you pray for rain. And when you get rain on it, especially if you get a good timely rain soon after you do it, germination usually will take place in 3 to 5 days. You'll start seeing some activity out there. But you don't always get it, so some years you got to wait for the rain to come. But if the ground isn't completely flat, the soil has some particles or the seed has some particles to attach to. So we found the 2 seasons we've used it now, we've had, I consider, very good results. We did find that you can't use a pre on your soils.
David says he had cover crops on almost 100% of his 750 acres about a decade ago, but since then he's fought mud each fall, making it difficult to get covers established in some areas. And hey, that's a perfect segue to the Cover Crop Connection, so let's check in with Associate Editor McCain Vogel.
Thanks, Noah. McCain Vogel here with this week's Cover Crop Connection. As part of a $10 million effort funded by the USDA, the first national cover crop variety test report is being released publicly. The project is led by the University of Missouri's Center for Regenerative Agriculture and includes data for 25 varieties representing 6 different cover crop species tested across 12 states to help inform cover crop decision-making based on winter hardiness, biomass potential, weed control, and other key cover crop traits. Here's a clip of Etienne Sutton, Program Manager and Senior Researcher at the Center for Regenerative Agriculture, discussing some more details from the testing program.
So this is an example from our Vermont site. The evaluation metrics are listed in the top row of the table, and then the species and varieties are along the leftmost column, and the values in the tables are the averages for each variety across those evaluation metrics. You'll want to note that the winter canola and radishes are both lumped together into a brassicas category at the bottom of the tables. And then in terms of analysis for each site, we analyzed the data to see if there were statistically significant differences across varieties for each species. And where there were significant differences, we indicated this with letters, such that any varieties that do not share a letter are indeed statistically different from each other. For example, across winter pea varieties in Vermont, there were significant differences in spring stand. Survivor, which is marked with an A, is a variety bred for winter hardiness and early green up, and showed significantly better spring stand than Frostmaster, which is marked with a B. The other three varieties, Wyo Winter, Austrian winter peas, and Keystone, are all marked with both an A and a B, which means that they had intermediate performance and were not significantly different from either Survivor or Frostmaster.
Well, if you want to download and review the full report or watch the replay of that webinar unpacking all the details from the report, you can head to the website or the YouTube channel for University of Missouri's Center for Regenerative Agriculture. Well, that's all for this week's Cover Crop Connection. Until next time, I'm McCain Vogel. Back to you, Noah.
All right, thanks, McCain. Great stuff. The recently passed Big Beautiful Bill officially locked in the 45Z tax credit through 2029. Now, 45Z incentivizes the production of clean fuel and could result in a windfall for no-tillers producing low-carbon corn. A game changer, if you ask Washington, Iowa no-tiller Mitchell Hora. The Continuum Ag founder hosted a press conference to help farmers cash in.
We don't know all of the final details yet, but this is absolutely happening. It is going forward. It is locked in. You need to be ready to roll. So, and farmer, at a minimum, know what your CI score is, and that's free. It doesn't take very long either. We do it at topsoil.ag for free, or Google the GREET model and go and get your CI score. Just know what you're dealing with, understand how it works. The full GREET model is pretty complicated. That's why we simplified it. And you own your data in our system. So be prepared that you're going to have to verify your CI scores field by field. That's how this is going to work. Now, the data may be aggregated at a farm level. It may remain field by field. We don't know, but regardless, you got to have scores field by field. You got to have your agronomic data field by field, and you got to undergo these audits, whether it be undergo the audits proactively, like what we've been doing under our CI certification program, or it's going to be required by the grain buyer, by the ethanol plant.
So CI stands for carbon intensity, and the closer your CI score is to zero, the likelier it is to translate to a tax credit for the ethanol plant and ultimately additional income for your farm. Special treat now, we're catching up with no-till legend John Bradley. The longtime University of Tennessee agronomist was instrumental in the development of no-till in the 1970s and 1980s, and Bradley credits much of the success to local farmers who really stepped up to the plate as champions for the practice.
An extension agent would go out and work with the farmer on new innovations, and then they would use him, if you would, as a leader or an example, and have field days around him. And where we had those people, you could actually pinpoint where we would get it going, and then when that particular local leader or leaders, maybe it was 2 or 3 different farmers, would fade out, that no-till went down. To do no-till, one of the first things I recommend is you need a mentor. And that's what this person acted as, a mentor. They could go to him, ask questions. They could go to his farm. They could look at his drill. They could look at his planter. They could look at his spray rigs. The concept that I had and worked with was the extension set up test demonstration farms. And when I worked for Monsanto, we called them centers of excellence. And I went to all the cotton states, and we set those up. Mainly 1 per state, sometimes 2. And those farmers became the local leaders and spokespeople. And then we would use them in local or regional meetings to give how they made it work in their situation.
From one no-till legend to another for our video of the week, congratulations to Marion and Charlotte Calmer, who tied the knot earlier this month. The Calmers exchanged nuptials on their Calmer Waters boat in Alpha, Illinois. Looks like it was a beautiful, fun ceremony. Cheers to Marion and Charlotte on their pre-harvest honeymoon. Looking forward to seeing Marion at the No-Till Conference in January. And that'll wrap things up. Story idea, you know where to find me, in Newman at LesserMedia.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Conservation Ag Update. Have a great day.